Something Nice Back Home is sandwiched between two critically acclaimed episodes that are also fan favorites. When this episode aired, I thought it was one of the weaker episodes of the series, but over the years I've started to appreciate it more. I'll come back to that at the end of this video. It is day 98, December 28th. Way up here, Miles, Sawyer and Claire are trekking towards the beach camp. They're in this area, which is shot at the Palm Grove at Dillingham Ranch, a popular filming location which has portrayed various places all over the island. However, this location is supposed to be the same one as we saw at the end of the episode Meet Kevin Johnson. Miles hears the voices of Danielle and Carl and discovers their bodies. Remember in the previous season where I mentioned that Mikhail was running around and my idea that there was a landfall or something that blocked this passage to the temple? I believe that Carl, Danielle and Alex walked to the sonic fence, turned it on, then proceeded here and following Ben's map, then realized that this passage was blocked and then all these mountains were all blocking their way to the temple, so they turned around, headed this way towards this gap, which is towards the beach camp, to get to this open spot and then head towards the temple before they were killed.
Get back here as fast as you can.
Okay. Thank you.
Jin's son Daniel and Charlotte are instructed to travel to the staff station to collect medical supplies. I love how much we still use those pearl notebooks so long after they discovered the station. Echo brought them to the camp since they might be important, and they've been used for Charlie's songwriting, his greatest hits list, and now a list of medical supplies. Juliet instructs the other survivors, and this is a fun scene since it's the direct opposite of what we saw in the previous episode. Now, the extra survivors are suddenly present and active again. Daniel, Charlotte, Jin and Sun trek through this area, the path that Juliet and Sun took. They arrive at the station, still filmed at Manoa Valley. This is the last time we visit this station, but not the last time we're at this location.
What's Kyle?
They enter the secret room, gather all the supplies, and then leave. They will trek the same way back, through this gap over here, and then they will hand the supplies to Juliet. Juliet opens on Jack. We have to address Frank Lapidus. He's probably at the chopper over here and has been chilling out for the past day. I believe he landed the chopper in the big valley here. He was likely contacted by Kimi or some of the other mercenaries to quickly bring a first aid kit. So he is now running. Sawyer, Claire and Miles encounter Frank and hide from Kimi and the mercenaries.
Kimi's coming back. And if he sees you, he'll kill all of you. And he's close, man. You gotta hide now. Go!
They all trek towards the chopper, which is a kilometer away. In an off-screen scene, Frank takes off with the chopper. I think that he will fly over these mountains on this side, so he doesn't pass the beach camp, or else the survivors would have reacted on why the chopper was flying over them. Sawyer, Claire and Miles continue, and I'll pull up the map of the dead again. There is another body here, a body that has been here for centuries. And I'll propose the theory that on their way to the beach, Miles heard a little bit from Charlotte. Charlotte's body should be here in the jungle, some distance but not too far from the orchid. It's on their route back to the beach. Remember, her body stayed behind in ancient times during the last time flash. Miles can hear the thoughts of people that have been reduced to ash, so I don't think this is a stretch. He can hear what happens before their death, and the last conversation, what they were thinking about, and the last conversation she had was with Daniel Faraday, when she was explaining that she was spending her entire adult life looking for the island, the place where she was born.
I've been here before.
You've been here before?
I grew up here.
And this is why, when Miles finally returns to the beach camp, he has this odd conversation with Charlotte.
It's just weird, you know, after all that time you spent trying to get back here.
What do you mean, get back here?
What do I mean?
Sawyer, Claire and Miles have continued to trek down south, or north if you want to use the new compass bearings, and I believe this next scene jumps a bit in time, since it's dark now. I mentioned that the monster drove the mercenaries away out of the barracks, and it probably continued moving down the island, and he has now transformed into Christian Shepherd. Claire sees a vision of Christian holding Aaron by the fire. In an off-screen scene, they will now go together to the cabin, which will be in a new location, the third one in the series, but that's all for next episode, because by next morning, Sawyer and Miles find Aaron and then go around for a long time searching for her. That's the treks from the island. Looking back at season 4 and especially the post-strike episodes, they all run in an insane tempo. It's all an action movie. This episode is the most David Lynchian of all the episodes in season 4. This episode lets us breathe, and that is important. On rewatch, an episode like this prevents us from feeling exhausted, as well as giving us something different. There's a certain nightmarish quality all over this episode. I thought the story of Claire, Sawyer, Miles and Aaron actually fits well with the rest. The focus on Claire and Aaron being prevalent in the flash-forwards, and some clever hints, such as Miles asking if Sawyer is her bigger brother, which also happens coincidentally in the same episode about her big brother, Jack. There's several cool transitions from dream to awakened state. The metaphorical connections between them is very fascinating. Let's begin at the start. The first flash forward comes in after Jack collapses and is unconscious, and the flash goes to him being asleep and then awakened. Many have pointed out that Jack has a shaved stomach in this flash forward, which is foreshadowed by Juliet doing this to him on the island in the past, once again showing the connections between the future and the past, not in a literal sense, but to tell a story. We then get this camera movement from the stars down to Jack and Aaron, referencing to the tune that is associated with Claire, Catch a Falling Star. The flash forward segment mentions Jack's father, and the painting behind Jack makes me think of the appearance of Christian Shepherd in the water way back in season 1. The next flash forward segment takes place at Saint Sebastian and Santa Rosa. In this one we get a glimpse of Christian Shepherd, and then it seems like the flash forward takes place from daytime to nighttime, and the closer we get to the nighttime sequences, the closer we get to Jack's broken mental state. From the awakened state to the nightmare, the dreamlike story ramps up. Later we have this amazing dialogue between Jack and Hurley, which in many ways is the opposite conversation of the finale.
Because we're dead. All of us. All the Oceanic Six, we're all dead.
I died too.
Living with Kate, taking care of Aaron. It all seems so perfect. Just like heaven.
Just because I'm happy doesn't mean that this isn't real. Are you real? I sure hope so. Yeah, I'm real. You're real. Everything that's ever happened to you is real. All those people in the church, they're all real too.
And the scene is set dressed in such a great way. It's very moody and different from the openness we see in earlier episodes at the mental institution. Here we have a keycard lock and barred windows, more like a prison for the mind. Even the lighting makes it look like there's 3 people here: Jack, Hurley and a ghost. There's something off-putting to me with that empty chair in between them. The next flash forward sequence has this shot of Jack at Santa Rosa, but the editing is tricking us. It seems like Jack is looking at the empty chairs behind the Santa Rosa sign, but that's behind him over here. The sign, the building and the tree is behind him. Jack is not looking at that. From a production standpoint, it's likely a blooper, but the show establishes that there's nothing but an open green field on the other side of the road of the sign. Jack is not looking at that. Why would Jack look at the green field? Well, Jack is not looking at that. He's looking at us, at the camera, and that's quite eerie. This episode, which already blurs the lines between dreams and reality, takes that a step further by having Jack looking outside of the show he's in, looking outside of the diegesis before brushing it off, going back to his own dream reality. The next flash forward segment happens after Jack is knocked out, after Bernard says he should be dreaming about something nice back home. The one where the smoke detector is a foreshadowing of the smoke monster being Christian Shepherd on the island. It's almost as if the show is suggesting that he is dreaming about this sequence, even though he's not. Later when Jack gets back home, you have these decorations. Where do they come from? Well, they weren't made by Aaron. They came from Santa Rosa Mental Institution. I know that they are repurposed props, and I'm reading way deep into this, but it's almost like the mental hospital is now invading Jack's home right now. The mental institution is now in his head, with Jack popping the same pills Hurley did. And that's why I think this episode is a bit underrated. It has this dreamlike and atmospheric touch to it, and the question that arose from Through the Looking Glass, which was why did Jack's life fall completely apart, is much more complicated than many of the answers on Lost. As Damon Lindelof said about explaining how Libby became crazy, it can be as simple as she got crazy because of her death of her husband, but that's not an engaging story, and it would be insulting if it was dealt with like that, as a simple line. But when it comes to Jack, we get this great story, this dark, nightmarish answer where Jack's character arc has so many steps to it. Truly a well-written episode. Next week we'll break down the awesome hour of Cabin Fever.